My name is Mike Hillman, otherwise known as James M. Hillman, 1310 3rd Street Southeast, Coleman, Alabama. This is my opinion of the items that need to be my BMW Montauk 2004. The Montauk, there was only 400 of these things made, and it was right at the end of the R1200C production line. There were a number of items added to it that were extras with the prior production line. So this option of the Montauk only existed in 2004. So of the things that I think need to be continued, that I have observed and had intended to continue, none of which preclude operation of the motorcycle, but things that need to be done. We're merely, in my opinion, temporary caretakers of these machines, because they're going to exist far longer than I'll ever exist and most of the other people. There is a location that you can purchase parts for this machine at much less than a BMW, and it's called BMW Graveyard. If you'll Google that, you can find parts for it. So first of all, in accordance with what I said earlier, let's talk about the topics that I think need to be administered for operation of the bike. Number one is the headlights. Ever since I've had the bike, and I didn't figure out until the last month or so, the low beam is the top beam. That beam has two bulbs. One bulb is a parking bulb, which is when the switch is all the way to the left and not yet engaged. The other bulb is the low beam bulb. I think, as my observation, that the low beam bulb is not properly wired. Now, the high beam bulb and what I call the driving lights operate fine, so there's not a problem with them. But if you see a problem with it and it shows up in a darkened room as if it's got a wonderful headlight, but at night it is not enough, you'll have to use the high beam. Now, continue with that. Assume that you got all the lights on so that you can be seen. After you get through riding for an hour and it's very, very warm weather, that bike is going to sound like it's not going to crank. And what has happened is that the compression is so high and the rings are so tight, as it's gotten warm, that puny little battery in that thing just will not turn that bike over. So you can sit there and wait 10 minutes and it's going to crank, okay? So don't get concerned. But if it were me, there is a third button on the right handlebar controls. I would fix that button so that it disables the headlight on when cranks option. In other words, you should be able to crank the motorcycle without any and have the option of turning that bulb off, and that won't put a strain on the battery itself. Okay, that is really a pain in the you-know-what. So what I would do, I've got a temporary battery mounted on the rear, and my intention was, if I was ever able to ride again, and it's sad to me that I won't, but that battery needs to be mounted there. a very good battery, and it needs to be kept on a tender. Even if you put the best battery on a tender, it's not going to last more than about a year and a half. So put a high quality battery there. It'll reduce the profile of that battery, and you can cover it with that Fox seat that was on it to begin with, however you want to do it. That's just my advice. So be aware. When that, you're going to think something's wrong with it, but it's not. Competent training. If you haven't ridden a bike as heavy as this bike, fully loaded, full of gas, it weighs 630 pounds, you need to learn to control that bike. You need to be out in an open place where you have got a huge area that you can play around with handling it while it's still. When that thing gets up to speed, it is a natural, but it takes about 10 miles an hour for that to happen. Maybe 5 miles an hour. But at the very slow speeds, that thing can fall. And of course, then you've got the problem of getting the rascal back up. Anyway, use the proper tools. Those seat bolts and other bolts and screws were butchered up because somebody tried to use an Allen wrench where a torque wrench should be. You'll see that I've marked those wrenches, marked those things as to what they are, and I've replaced all of those bolts that were messed up. The seat bolt on the right side, lower right side, was totally messed up. So what I did is I drilled it all the way through, set me up a jig, drilled it all the way through, and retapped it all the way through the frame rail. I was going to put a helicoil in it, but once I found out that that worked so good, I didn't. When you put that seat back on and you align that bolt, you take a 5mm drill. And if that 5mm drill won't go in that hole through that bushing into that seat, 5mm is the inside diameter of a 6mm thread, then you don't force that thing in there, or you'll have a problem to fix, and it's not easy. Clutch. On all of these models, that clutch was greased at the factory. And what they planned on was nobody ever riding it after about 30,000 miles. So the clutch throwout bearing has been known to fail. Also, the clutch slave cylinder, my bike, has an adjustment to bleed it on the back. It is a fantastic thing. Now, in order to get to that clutch, if something happens, don't panic. But you have to have some help, and you pull all of that off, keep it to the side, put a new clutch on it, and re-grease it. And that's all. It's re-greasing it. That's what's so stupid about it. When is that going to happen? It's happened anywhere from 15,000 miles to 50,000 miles. So it's just a warning as to what can happen. Lastly, is the tires. The tires have been on that bike since the very first day that I got it, okay? It has been stored inside all of that time. I got very little chance to ride on it, and due to my accident and other illnesses, I got a lot of time to work on it. But I think about those rides, and they were absolutely just enjoyable. You've got a comfort seat, and you've got the original seat. That comfort seat is fine. If you find out the seat doesn't quite fit you, be extremely careful of sending it to one of those we guarantee to fix your seat. I spent $1,000 getting a seat from a well-known seat, custom seat manufacturer. And all he did was scrape the top off the original seat and put new leather on it. And I can prove it. Of course, he denied it later. But don't send that seat off without thinking it through if you don't like the one that's on it. The one that's on it right now is an extra that BMW made available called the comfort seat. My very best good luck to you with the bike. I had a tremendous amount of good time with it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to spend the time on the road because of life. But I really, really hope you get to enjoy this bike, and I think it's good for 60,000 miles. With that, I'll say good day. Thank you for watching.